What's going on, guys? It's Runic. This is my final mock draft before the NBA draft is on the 29th, this Thursday. I'm really excited for the draft, and I'm even more excited about this mock draft. I think this is the best mock draft I've come up with, and I really hope you guys enjoy it too. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Pick 1 should come to no surprise to anybody. The Pistons are taking Cade Cunningham, plain and simple. To be 6'8", be a point guard, have a shooting touch like he does, have a feel for the game like him, and defensive potential like no one else, this guy is just the clear-cut number 1 overall pick in this draft class, and I think we just need to move on to the next question. After doing a bit of rethinking, the Rockets are going to pick Jalen Green. I originally had them picking Evan Mobley, but I changed my mind on this one, because I realized that the Rockets have enough young frontcourt pieces like Jae'Sean Tate, Kenyon Martin Jr., and Christian Wood, that Evan Mobley would just kind of crowd that up a little bit. And with just basically Kevin Porter Jr. in the backcourt, Jalen Green could really be a good combination, and those two could be really fun to watch next year. Pick 3 should come pretty easily for the Cavs here. They really don't have anyone better to pick than Evan Mobley. Clearly the best player available on the board, might even be the second best player in this draft class. Just Jalen Green fit a little bit better than the Rockets and all that. So Mobley, the only question about Mobley is it really fit with Jared Allen, and I think he'd be fine. You can slide him right into that 4 spot. He could work just good for Cleveland. Next question. Pick 4 is going to be pretty simple for Toronto. I don't see them really picking anyone else other than Jalen Suggs in this spot, especially considering the potential Kyle Lowry departure. I just don't see them going with anyone else. Jalen Suggs is one of the most solid, well-rounded players in this draft class. He just really doesn't excel at one thing, and that's really what holds him back from being a top player. But other than that, he's a great all-around basketball player and a great pick for the Raptors at 4. With pick 5, the Magic are going to select Scottie Barnes. This is the first questionable pick in my opinion in this mock draft. I really don't think that they should be selecting Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is a little bit worse of a shooter and more raw of a prospect than Scottie Barnes is. I just think Scottie Barnes is by far the safer pick for the Magic, and he could really help this Magic team become one of the best defensive teams in the league. Not to mention Scottie Barnes' unorthodox ability to playmake out of that 6'9" frame of his. He's just unlike any other prospect in this draft class, and he's a great talent to add to this Magic team. At pick 6, OKC is going to select Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is the perfect prospect for a team like OKC. They have so many first-round picks that if they miss on a raw player like Jonathan Kuminga, they have, I think it's like 17 other first-round picks to back that up in the next coming years. So if they miss on Kuminga, it's not really that big of a deal. But if they hit a home run, it's one of the few home runs that they're going to have to hit, because Kuminga has potential to be a top 3 player in this class. But if it doesn't pan out, it's going to end up alright for OKC, and that's why I have them taking him. At pick number 7, I'm going to have Golden State selecting James Bouknight. James Bouknight has showed out really well in his draft workouts, and I think that he can either become a really good contributor off the bench for Golden State, or he could be a really strong piece in a trade package for Golden State to acquire a star, like Bradley Beal for instance. James Bouknight could really work out as a Bradley Beal replacement in Washington, and he could be a heavy piece in a trade like that. Or he could come off the bench and score for the Warriors. Either one works fine, that's why I have him taking him. With the 8th pick of the draft, I have the Orlando Magic taking Moses Moody. Moses Moody is, in my opinion, the best 3-and-D prospect in this draft class, with the potential to have his own shot creation in his game as well later on in his career. Moses Moody is just probably one of the safer picks that the Magic can make right now, as they have a lot of guys who are kind of in the inconsistent side of shooting, and Moses Moody can really just help them become a better shooting team overall and in the future. That's why I have them taking him here. With the 9th pick of the draft, I have the Sacramento Kings taking Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner really doesn't have the highest ceiling in this draft class, and that's pretty apparent. However, I just think he helps solve so much problems in the Kings organization, especially defense, that he can really just be a solid player for this team. That's why I have them taking him here at 9. At pick 10, I have the Grizzlies keeping it pretty simple. They traded up in the draft, and I think they traded up in the draft to draft Corey Kispert. Ja Morant with shooters is scary. Corey Kispert, one of the best shooters in the class. Plain and simple. Next question. With pick 11, the Hornets are going to select Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson is the perfect player to pair with LaMelo Ball. Him and Miles Bridges could be one of the most fun to watch lob threat duos in the league. The Hornets can also look to add either Nerlens Noel or Rashawn Holmes in free agency to really strengthen that front court because that was one of the weaker parts of their team last year. And with a strong front court, they could become a really, really dangerous playoff competitor in the future. With pick 12, the Spurs are going to select Kai Jones. Kai Jones may be one of the more raw big man prospects in this class, but I think his value is higher than both Sengun and Isaiah Jackson's, especially for a team like the Spurs. Just because, in my opinion, it's because Kai Jones' ability to stretch the floor makes him more valuable than those two players, and that's why I have the Spurs picking him here. At pick 13, I have the Pacers taking Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey was one of the more fun to watch players overseas last season, and for a team like the Pacers, that are most likely going to lose TJ McConnell in free agency, they're going to need playmaking and defense to come off the bench, and that is exactly what Josh Giddey will bring for them, and that's exactly why I have them picking him here at 13. At pick 14, I have one of the more no-brainer selections in this class, and the Warriors are going to select Davion Mitchell. There really isn't much to say here, as he can be a bench scorer and a great defender for this team. He's a veteran, and he can compete on a championship contending team, just a great pick for them overall. At pick 15, I have the Wizards taking Usman Garuba. The Wizards were a pretty solid team last year, but they were missing one thing. That one thing was defense. Usman Garuba was one of the best defenders in the second best league in the world. I have no doubt he can translate that into the NBA, and that's why I have them taking him here. At pick 16, I have OKC taking Keon Johnson. Some may see this as Keon Johnson falling, but it's whatever. This is the NBA draft, anything can happen. I think Keon Johnson is just too raw to take in the lottery, and it's a big risk for teams that are competing to take as well. That's why I think that OKC is yet again another perfect destination for a guy like Keon Johnson. That's why they're picking him here at 16. At pick 17, I have the Pelicans taking Jared Butler. Jared Butler is just a really solid player overall. He's a really great shooter, he's a good defender, and he's a solid playmaker as well. The main thing that draws me with Jared Butler is that he can share the backcourt with other guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Kyra Lewis Jr., and maybe even Lonzo Ball if they manage to keep him. So I think it's just a great pick for the Pelicans, and he fits really well. With pick 18, I have OKC taking Turkish big man Alperen Sengun. Alperen Sengun is an interesting player. He plays more of the traditional back-to-the-basket style rather than the face-up and three-point shooting style we see so dominant in the game today. He could be a pick-and-roll threat, but I just really think that OKC is a great place for him to develop his skills and become a solid threat in the league one day, especially after the departure of Al Horford. I think he could be a really solid player in the future for them. At pick 19, I have the Knicks selecting Tre Mann. Tre Mann is one of the best shot creators in this draft class. He's also a really great three-point shooter. He really helps the Knicks fill in a lot of holes they had offensively last year and can patch up some of the difficulties they had at that point guard position, especially with Elfrid Payton. It won't be hard to replace Elfrid Payton because he was god-awful last year, so hopefully Tre Mann can do that for him. That's why I haven't taken him here at 19. At pick 20, I have the Hawks taking Sharife Cooper. In my opinion, Sharife Cooper is the single best playmaker in this draft class. He's so crafty with the ball, and he's so good at finding the open guy. The only problem with his game is his jump shot and his ability to hit a consistent floater. With those two in his arsenal, I think he'd be the second best point guard in this draft class, only behind Cade Cunningham. That's why I think he can really fit well with this Hawks team, especially with all the shooters and all the big men he can run pick and roll with. He can work really well within the Hawks offense and work behind Trae Young. At pick 21, I have the Knicks selecting Isaiah Jackson. Isaiah Jackson is one of the more raw players in this draft class, which there seems to be a pretty good trend here in this class. A lot of raw guys getting selected outside of the lottery. Isaiah Jackson has potential to be one of the better defenders, if not the best rim protector in this draft class. I think he could be a really solid backup to Nerlens Noel, or he could fill in Nerlens Noel's spot if he happens to leave. Just a good pick for the Knicks. At pick 22, I have the Lakers selecting Chris Duarte. Chris Duarte is 24. He's a veteran. He's a perfect player for the Lakers. He's a shooter. He's a good defender. There really isn't much else you could ask for a pick at 22 for a team that's looking to compete for a title next season. Great pick for him. Next question. At pick 23, I have the Rockets taking JT Thor. They went backcourt with Jalen Green. Now they can build up their front court with JT Thor. JT Thor is like a slender man shooter who can run the floor well. He can handle decently, and he can even create his own shot sometimes. He was projected to be a 2022 lottery pick, but he kept his name in the draft this year, so getting him at 23 this year seems like a steal to me. He can develop really well in Houston, and he'll have a lot of room to work with the rebuilding team. It's a great pick for him at 23. At pick 24, I have the Rockets taking Zaire Williams. Zaire Williams is another one of those raw guys in this draft class. He was at once projected to be a top 10 pick in this draft class back in high school, but college didn't really work out well for him. Stanford went through a couple of tough situations, but the potential is definitely there, and when your guy reminds you of a 6'8 KD, you have to take him at 24. At pick 25, I have the Clippers selecting Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride is a tenacious defender. He's pretty short, but he's a good point guard. He can create shots, he can make shots, he can play make a little bit, and like I said, he's a really good tenacious defender. I think he just fits in really well with the Clippers team, and it's a great pick for him. At 26, I have the Nuggets going Cam Thomas. The main thing that draws me to the Nuggets drafting Cam Thomas is the fact that Jamal Murray is going to be hurt for part of next season, if not most of it. Cam Thomas can really fill in that scoring role that Jamal Murray had that was kind of missing in the playoffs. You could kind of tell they got swept by the Suns because they really couldn't keep up with the Suns scoring. So I think Cam Thomas is just a great fit in to just slot in there for Jamal Murray and just have it go there. Great pick. At pick 27, I have the Nets taking Trey Murphy. They definitely don't need more superstars. They need role players. Trey Murphy is the premier role player. 3 and D. That's all he needs to be said. He's a great 3 and D player and probably the top 5 3 and D prospect in this class, in my opinion. Next question. At pick 28, I have the Sixers taking Bones Hyland. I have no doubt Bones Hyland would be higher on draft boards had he gotten his March Madness game, but VCU had the COVID problems, so they couldn't play in the tournament. I think it would have really held out his stock, but here he is falling to 28. In my opinion, he's a top 25 player in this class. He's one of the best shooters and scorers in the class, and he'll bring exactly what the Sixers need off the bench, which is bench scoring and bench shooting. Perfect fit for the team. At pick 29, I have the Suns taking Jaden Springer. He kind of fills a need because the Suns are kind of iffy whether they can bring back Cam Payne or not, because he might be too much money after he had really good playoff run. So Jaden Springer can maybe help step into that role, and if not, he'll step in the year after when either Chris Paul or Cam Payne is done. And Jaden Springer, people don't remember that he was a lottery level talent earlier this year, but there's just so many other good point guards that he kind of fell to the end of the draft. I think he's a steal here at 29, and he could be a great player for the future and for the Suns. At pick 30, the Jazz really have a tough spot here. They could look to add some front court depth, or they could look to add backcourt depth. And with Mike Conley getting a little older, I think they probably want to go for backcourt depth first, and they can address that with Ayo Dosunmu. He really is the best point guard left available in this class. Although he does have some ball security issues, that's really the only problem with his game. He's a pretty complete point guard aside from the ball security issues, and I think he's just a really good pick here for the Jazz. Good value. He's a veteran player. He dribbled a little machine in college. I think he's a great pick. I know that was a long video with the 30 picks and all, but I just want to appreciate every single one of you who may have stuck to the end here. I just want to tell you that if you disagree, let me know. You can dislike the video if you want. You can drop a comment, fucking flame me or some shit. I don't care. But as long as you watch the video, I'm happy. I'm out. Peace.